We've got our latest patch for NHL 24. In this video, we're going to walk through all of the patch notes and go over everything we should expect in this latest patch. Now, the two biggest things that this patch will focus on is hybrid controls being brought back, as well as the tethering system for human goaltenders, the ability to turn that on or off. That being said, let's get into the patch notes. All right, so this will go live 1.1.1 on October 24th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. We're happy to share details on NHL 24's patch releasing this Tuesday. Please complete any games prior. Obviously, you are going to do that no matter what. You will get kicked off. So as you can see, hybrid controls are back. You've got the wrist shot as X or square, slap shot for B or circle, pass with A, as well as D, can skate and all of that, poke check, body check, switch player. So everyone that did use hybrid controls, there you go, it is brought back. I have spoken to some people that used hybrid controls last like 10 years and have gotten really used to total controls. Again, personally, I don't mind total controls. I've been using skill stick obviously for the last decade or two. But for everyone that does like hybrid, whether it be an accessibility thing, there you go, it's going to be back in the game. Hybrid controls as well as updated goalie controls highlight the new additions. You'll now be able to select hybrid controls as well as new options for human goalies, with the tether control system now having an on-off or hybrid option to best suit your playstyle. So if you don't play manual goaltender, then this one really isn't going to pertain to you. But essentially, it stops the tethering system, which is basically always bringing you back to center of the net. We'll see. I know that was a big thing for a lot of the higher skilled and even the casual goalies that play at EASHL, so it's good that they rectified that. Again, this isn't a new feature, they just fixed what they took away. So this paragraph was kind of glanced over by a lot of people in the community. Very important to note. So in an effort to get these two highly requested changes in, you can expect a larger list of gameplay updates based on your feedback. Coming in an early November patch, this includes addressing feedback around the lacrosse move, unintentional push checks in front of the net when attempting a one-timer, goalie tuning, and more. An update based on feedback we've seen regarding hip checks is also planned for the patch, following what will be released in early November. We understand that this is an important change, and our team is working on the best way to balance it as soon as possible. So this is pretty big. The one thing I do want to mention is that NHL 23, I've stated it a number of times, one of the worst games that we've ever gotten, and a big portion of that was because when they released the game, whether we thought something was broken or just an awful gaming experience, they didn't address it. They just put all their focus on NHL 24. This year, there was an effort stated that we will get live service updates to gameplay, and now we're actually getting patches like what we used to in prior years for things that we just aren't enjoying in the game, and they're not intended by the developers either. So I'll touch on everyone here. The lacrosse move, I honestly think this might be something that's more in the lower divisions. In Division 1 and 2, I've mentioned this a number of times over the years, it's a completely different game. Not in that, everyone's so much more skillful and the hockey is insane. No, it's not that. It's that everyone is trying to win at the ultimate level, and the way that they play the game is so much different than the lower divisions, because the lower divisions are all, off the rush, more what you would see in a traditional hockey game. Division 1 and 2, it is min-maxing, trying to do all the things that a lot of people would deem cheesy, and unfortunately that's just the nature of video games, and everyone trying to win every game possible. The lacrosse move, it is very easy to defend, and you don't see it in Division 1 and 2 really at all. I think I've had it scored on me maybe 3 times in about 150 games, and I probably scored it maybe 10, and the only reason I've scored it so many times is because there is something to notice when you can actually do it. If you are struggling giving up the lacrosse move, make sure your defense is set to collapsing, and you will see your defenseman, your left and right defenseman, come down and sit on the post. If you manually control them, sounds dumb. If you manually control them and pull them off the post, then that post play will be there to actually, be able to do the lacrosse move. So if you are really struggling with it, just control your forward in the defensive zone against the player you're going up against that's trying the Michigan a ton. Again, I found it very easy to defend, and if you're having trouble still, go watch my strategies video. It'll go over showing you exactly how to do that. The next, the unintentional push checks in front of the net when attempting a one-timer. This is massive. So for anyone that doesn't know what this means, it's when you're sending a pass, whether through the slot or even for a one-timer to the face-off dot, I feel like a lot of the player base, I know myself included, just smashes up like a ton. I don't just do the one for the one-timer. I'm doing it relentlessly because you can queue for a one-timer. What's happening though is because the puck isn't getting to you with total controls or even the skill stick now, I've noticed that when you go to do the hit or the one-timer, you're actually getting a shove off. And what that does is when there's other players around you, you're getting a penalty when you're not intending to hit at all. That's a big quality of life improvement that I think will actually be pretty well received. Goalie tuning and more. Goalies are always going to be broken, guys. It's very difficult to make a computer deal with all of the stuff where people go into the lab and find the easiest ways to score, but maybe we see some different ways to have to score because goalies are now adjusted more. The hip check. So it sounds like in the wording of this, the hip check won't be addressed in the early November patch. However, it does look like they're promising yet another patch on top of that, which again, I think is good. Hip checks are in a pretty rough spot. Again, I think this is more in the high-end divisions. What you're seeing in Division 1 and 2 in Champs is people are holding down X for the hip check, and they just need to touch you with any part of their body. So whether it be their head, an arm, their ass cheeks going 4 miles an hour, it'll send you into a full hip check animation. Now, in the beta, the hip check, when you were doing it, didn't even lose speed, so it was even more difficult. It doesn't look like it's much different than the technical test, other than the fact that when you hold down square or X, you go much slower when you get into the hip check animation, but that definitely needs to be addressed. It's ruining the high-end top of gameplay because it is easily the best way to knock someone off the puck, and it does not look good. It is not a hockey play, and I really hope that they address that and fix it because it is really overpowered right now. All right, on to the gameplay changes from this patch. We've got the hybrid controls update, the community feedback. The removal of hybrid controls has made the game difficult to play for users who require the ability to perform core actions on the face buttons of the controller. Hybrid controls have been reintroduced as an option in the control settings menu. Hybrid controls allow users to use the face buttons to perform core actions like shoot, pass, and hit. And hybrid controls utilize the same controller mapping as NHL 23 with some modification in order to support core gameplay changes to protect puck and reverse hit. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But yeah, for everyone that's missing the hybrid controls, being able to shoot, pass, and hit, I have spoken to a lot of people that have used hybrid controls over the last 10 years and have now been forced to use total controls over the last month. And I've had a few people actually say they won't go back to hybrid. So let me know in the comments section if you come around on total controls. I know I mentioned this, that I hated them throughout the technical test and the first week of the game. It wasn't until about 10 hours in, or when I finished all of the moments grind, that I finally kind of grasped how to use total controls, and I've loved it. I honestly have, but I'm one opinion. I think that there's a lot of people that don't like it, and I can totally understand why. It is a very jarring change, and some of the things are pretty annoying, like line changes, for example. I'm literally having to hold down the right stick, like in a claw method, to skate still, and then use my other hand to actually make the line changes. So pretty stupid, but that's just one bad portion of it. I've actually kind of enjoyed it now. So goalie controls update. The community feedback was veteran goalie users felt that the tether control system was too limiting and wanted the ability to control the goalie similar to 23. Additionally, the removal of alternate controls and forcing automatic hug post removed other aspects of controls that veteran goalies were accustomed to. So if you didn't use it, the tether control system, if you slammed the left stick down into the corner, it would actually automatically hug the post. I think for brand new people to trying to be a goaltender in NHL, I think it was actually a decent, it was kind of helpful, the tether control, because you never really lost your net. But for veteran players, if you play competitively or even not even competitively, you've just been doing it for a long time, it was definitely limiting. So it's good to see that the old controls are back in. The user goalie control settings have been expanded in the control settings menu. Goalie controls can be set between default or alternative. Default is the original controller layout. Alternate swaps the placement of butterfly, hug posts, and instincts. And then goalie tether can be set to on, off, or hybrid. On means the tether remains the same as launched. Off means that it's off. And then hybrid tether is disabled while in butterfly. So if you go down in a butterfly, the tethering system will not pull you back into the middle. Hug post can be set to auto or manual, which is pretty good. Auto meaning aiming the left stick towards the post to enter the hug post, like I mentioned. And manual is the user must hug the post, but use the manual hug post button while aiming the left stick towards the post to enter a hug post. Goalie fatigue system. So the community feedback. A goalie who performs a desperation save can stay on their side for too long, making the goalie feel less reactive to the situation. I've noticed this a few times. If you get cooking around the net and your goalie goes down into a desperation save, they'll literally just lie there. Even if you're battling for the puck and everything like that, your goalie's just literally taking a nap. So that I'm hoping to see that get fixed. When in an urgent situations, goalie will now transition from desperation side poses back to sitting pose, and then from sitting, they may get back into the butterfly or set. So this is actually a decent change, simply because they won't lay on their side where you can just literally backhand it up into the net. They'll actually sit, and then eventually, once you've gotten enough time, your goaltender will stand back up. Again, I think this is going to require tuning for years to get right, but it's definitely an improvement from what we had. This helps create more urgency for the goalie while allowing them to make future desperation saves from sitting or recover quickly back to a butterfly or set position. Stick lift update. The community feedback was defensive players who perform a stick lift have a high chance of taking a penalty. That's not telling the truth. Defensive players who perform a stick lift have a 100% chance of taking a penalty. There has been times where I've gone into the replay and I've literally just gotten the stick, gotten a penalty. Stick lift targeting has been updated to target a lower location on the opposing player's stick, which reduces the chances of taking a penalty. So this was the issue. When hitting A or X, your player would stick lift too high on the stick. It wouldn't get down near the blade, and that's what would trigger the penalty. So I'm hoping that this is actually a viable thing defensively, because I hate not being able to use the stick lift at all, because there's times where you're rushing with someone and a stick lift is legitimately the proper hockey play, and you end up just taking a penalty because, you know, it just is what it is. General bug fixes. The community feedback was, the community has identified some core bugs that impact the gameplay experience. Vision passing icon now appear while on the backhand or forehand in a stick handling state. Fixed a rare bug which could lead to a user goalie spinning on the spot when moving, and fixed a rare physics bug that could result in a game desync. The biggest thing I want from the vision control, so if you've noticed that it makes a sound when you hold down R2. Like, you can literally physically hear like a ding. It's very difficult to explain. When you're holding down R2, you can also hear it when your opponent does it. So something that I've now realized is that when you're defending the rush and someone is holding down R2, you can tell that they're cooking a pass. Which is A, just annoying because it makes these dings all the time, but B, kind of like a weird advantage that you shouldn't have. General, fixed an issue where the credits for the song Do It Faster were incorrectly displayed. Sick. World of Chell, they resolved the bug where the 1s and 3s eliminators leaderboard were not properly displaying ranking. They fixed a crash that occurred when transitioning from the thank you for pre-ordering NHL 24 screen in the player rewards screen in World of Chell back to the customize tab. Resolved the crash that occurred when equipping an emblem and then discarding changes in the World of Chell creation zone. A bug when rapidly scrolling back and forth on the battle pass would cause the instant reward tile framing to break. Resolved an issue where special character boosts were not displayed in the attribute chart when users were in the dressing room. It resolved an issue where users were not brought to the post-match dressing room when using 1v1 matchmaking. And finally, fixed a bug where drop-in goalies who quit out of the game were not replaced with AI characters. That's a pretty big fix. Drop-in goalies, when they would leave, it would literally just end the game. So that's a pretty good one. Creation Zone addressed game crash that occurred when setting up logos and branding while in the create expansion team and create team. Improved the scroll speed in the player detail menu of the Creation Zone from the main menu. I hope this is across all modes because the menus have been so slow lately. Fixed a bug where creating a defenseman in offline Creation Zone and leaving their player class as defensive defenseman would cause the incorrect class to be displayed once the player was created. This is a massive thing for franchise mode. Resolved an issue where the goalie, glove, and trapper geometry was warped and clipping when recoloring. We also got new art. So they updated the team center ice art for the Bruins, Sabres, Flames, Stars, Red Wings, Oilers, Panthers, Montreal, Winnipeg, and the Knights. Okay, little bias here. My Sharks don't really have much going on for them. Their center ice logo this year is absolute nails. And of course, just like last year when the Sharks home and away jerseys were literally not in Hockey Ultimate Team until I made a tweet about it in June. I don't understand. The Sharks are just a poverty franchise right now. I don't understand why they just don't get the same stuff in game. They literally have the coolest center ice logo. In the AHL, the Colorado Eagles, the Henderson Silver Knights. For uniforms, we've got the Minnesota Wild alternate, the AHL Bakersfield Condors, the ECHL, the Reading Royals, Toledo Walleye, Wheeling Nailers, and Wichita Thunder. There's a lot of European leagues also getting jerseys added in. And that is going to do it for this patch. So again, most of it was going to be the hybrid controls as well as the ability to not use the tether control. But there are some small things in here. The stick lift, I'm very curious to see if it's an actual viable thing again, because it just hasn't been in really 2 years, maybe even 3. But other than that, I'm excited for the next patch. Again, like I mentioned, I think that the most important thing to take away here from 1v1 players is that we're actually getting patches and the promise of more to come, which is such a major difference from last year in 23 when they just left live service to be completely ignored. So that is a W in a sense, although most of these issues should have already been taken care of. So we'll see what the updates are, but make sure you subscribe to the channel for the most up-to-date news, tips, and info for NHL 24, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one.